Being in the studio is the purest, and it's always great. You know, emotions run high, people can go crazy, people can get insane and act out. I mean, that just happens, but that, you know, you deal with that, that's fine. But the studio, the point of creation and making music, everybody working together to make a song great, it's always good. It's always good in the studio. You know, you get tired and you're in there a long time. You know, you run into roadblocks, but you work through it, and that's what professionals do. And you keep your sanity and you keep your head, and you just keep trying to move forward. If it's not happening, you go home, and we come in and tackle it again the next day. The studio is always great. Always the worst part for me and for many people that do it, and it doesn't happen as much as it did now, but the corporatization of the music companies. Traditionally, we'd go in the studio and it was the artist that ruled. It was about making great music, and the labels backed you up, but they didn't, you know, they let an artist go. You know, you make great music, and hopefully you would get something great out of it. And then they would go market it and sell it, get it to radio, whatever it took. All of a sudden we would do a record and there were people sticking their 2 cents in, and they were promotion people, radio promotion people, marketing people. And then you started to have to make a record that would conform to their marketing plan. And the power got taken away from the artist in a lot of ways. And you wanted to be successful and you would resist it, but you would end up playing ball with people that weren't necessarily musicians or artists, that were starting to stick their 2 cents in and make creative decisions, and I think the music didn't get better. And that was always the most frustrating, you know, when you would, you know, send your finished record in and then hear back from some promotion guy who, you know, who objected to something, and it would take the wind out of your sails, certainly. In a lot of ways, it ruined music. We're at a point now that we don't come across that very much. For the most part, with bands, you know, having their own labels and doing their own marketing, you really have to answer to the musicians and having to answer to the artist and making, you know, and making their vision a reality. And that's what it's always been about. And, you know, keep the business people out of it. I'd sat behind a guy named Bruce Swedien and Quincy Jones for a long time, and sitting behind them was a PhD in making music and making records, you know, without a doubt. Bruce would say, listen with your heart and not your ears. Find the emotion in a song to get people to feel something, reminded they have a soul. That's it. You know, lead with this. Always, you know, lead with your heart. You know, in life it's that way. You know, make your decisions based on what you think is right. You know, your intellect comes into it, but it's your heart that rules. And then if you follow your heart, I don't think you're ever going to go wrong.